Why yes, this is a butterbeer flavored cupcake. Do you have one? Didn't think so. So after an all-night Harry Potter marathon, the Deathly Hallows Part 2 premiere, a Paul McCartney concert, seeing Deathly Hallows Part 2 a second time, catching up on sleep, and spending many hours pondering with my sodium-filled 3D glasses about this film, I think I can finally make a jab at getting some of the greater points of my feelings across on this movie. Now, I said in my initial review, which I said in my review that I would be making more videos on this movie because I really, at that point, couldn't completely summarize my thoughts, and I think totally understandably, you know, I was extremely tired, I was emotionally distraught, and it was, I had just seen the movie, so I couldn't really, you know, gather all those thoughts in my head, but I think I can more now, so I hold this as more of a review, as the last video was just more of an initial reaction, telling you guys kind of how I felt. But still, I really totally haven't completely wrapped up my thoughts on this movie, and it's gonna take a while to truly put it in respect or relative to the other movies, how I like it in comparison, because yes, those movies I can rank more easily now because they've been out for with the exception of Deathly Hallows Part 1, they've all been out for well over a year or so, so I've definitely had time to do a lot of rewatches, think about them a lot, so my feelings on them are a lot more easily gathered rather than this one. I think another reason it was so hard for me to make that review then is because it was such a bittersweet time, and it still is. Harry Potter is finished, you know, it's breaking all sorts of records, you know, people aren't done talking about it, it's never going to die out, but yeah, I had just come back from the theater, and I was sitting there almost like the whole time before this movie started thinking, you know, I'm never going to be able to do this again, you know, I'm never going to have this midnight premiere with all these awesome people having this kinds of fun. I've been to a couple of Harry Potter midnight showings, and they're all so much fun, and it's sad that I wasn't going to be able to do that again, so I think that a lot of that incorporated in me not being as articulate as I would have liked to be. But regardless of how sad I was, I still completely was able to awe the spectacle of that amazing, amazing movie. Quickly, before I really get into more specifics, I did want this to be a more specific review, as in comparison the last one was very general, so I decided to go all out, just make this a spoiler edition review. So, if you haven't seen the movie yet, if you haven't read the books, please respectfully get out, because I wouldn't want to spoil this movie for anybody. Part 1 really set a great mood for the movie because it started out with the score just being absolutely beautiful, but at the same time set this really ominous tone to the movie with that opening montage, and here we get that same thing from the get-go. David Yates he lets you know how you should feel during this movie. You get that tone, you get that great vibe of urgency of this battle that's just building and building and building in both anticipation and extreme danger and intensity of the circumstances here. I think the film's tone reflects how this is a building series, but at the same time this building battle. So you kind of get this convergence of, as I said before, this movie is emotional for two large reasons. The subject, the source material itself is extremely emotional, extremely dramatic, but yes, this is the ending of a series, ending of a generational event, and that is why, for two different reasons, it had so much emotional potency, and I think David Yates, Steve Kloves, and all the actors really just nail getting that right, so both of those things are extremely satisfying, and at the same time they give us some of the best action in all of the series, some of the best action I've ever seen, because there is so much building up, there is so much behind it, there is so much momentum like any other series could not create, because no series have a continuity of a storyline this long running for this many movies, and that momentum just pushes this movie into overdrive and creates so much intensity. These tense, extremely dramatic scenes. All of that is reinforced by these beautiful, but all of that is reinforced by these beautifully and epically designed set pieces, the amazing visual effects. I mean, these people have really gone above and beyond, no holds bar, with just creating some of the most visually stunning things I've seen in cinema. You could say the reason I'm ogling over it so much is that I'm a fanboy or something, but I mean, come on. But I mean, seriously, I'm trying to be objective here because this movie was amazing regardless if I read the books or not. I think even more so because a lot of times you get the book readers really complaining about the movies, and as a huge book fan myself, that really irks me. I hate it when people, they just nitpick and nitpick. I mean, I even had some friends that before they read the books, they like loved every single one of these movies, and then this one came out, they recently had just read the books, and now they're just like bitching over every little thing and just being total buzzkills. And if you love the series so much, I don't know why you'd want that, because I feel like they go in with this closed-minded setting, like, oh, I was expecting so much, but I just didn't get it. But really, these books, the movies are extremely faithful to the book, so I don't know what they're blabbering about. I think the movies adapt the books just so perfectly. Like, yes, there are always going to be little things that we wish could be different, because there's always little things, always little favoritisms that we have in the book that we're like, well, you know, I wish that was there. But this is a writer's interpretation, a director's interpretation, an actor's interpretation. We all have our different interpretations of source material, and, you know, we're all going to have those little grievances. I still have them, but that does not affect in any way my feelings toward the movie. I still think it's an amazing film, because what matters is what makes sense within the context of the movie. Yes, if something does make sense in the context of the book, that doesn't matter because it's in the book, not the movie. This movie is a total adrenaline rush just from the get-go. Yes, we have a little story building in the beginning, and then we go off to Gringotts, and that was so amazing. It was designed like a roller coaster ride, and I'm saying it now. I think I've heard it places before that this should just be the next Wizarding World of Harry Potter ride. It is even designed like one. It was like it was just so awesome. I love that entire sequence. Because in the book, you know, I was thinking about it how I saw it in Sorcerer's Stone, where it's really just like a trolley, it just goes. But here, you know, it is this just epic, all these twists and turns, and, you know, Thieves' Downfall. I thought that was all done very well. Yes, there are subtle little changes, but then you see this dragon, which is so awesome. It was really cool. Like, when I was reading the book, I'm like, how are they going to do these things? Like, the multiplying gold in the vault, is a little strange vault. You know, how are they going to do that? They pulled it off just so amazing. And sometimes when there's so many visual effects, it's kind of hard for the actors to keep a grasp on what's going on when it's not literally happening. But all of them, you know, you can see these looks of, like, mangled fear on their face. And it's because, yes, they spent 8 years in these characters' shoes, so now they are one and the same. And I really love that, because that's something you can't always get. When you go out for like a trilogy or something, when you have an 8-7 movie series, you know, these characters, these actors, they really get into the roles and they dish out amazing performances. Speaking of amazing performances, Alan Rickman. If this man does not get an Oscar nomination for this movie, I will be thoroughly pissed off. He probably won't, because the Oscars are douchebags, but oh my god, his performance was so amazing. Another thing, I did not know how they were going to pull off, because there was just this emotional climax with his, yes, here come the spoilers, but oh jeez, the score. I bought the score the other day, and I had listened to a couple of songs before the movie came out, and Lily's theme, it is kind of the reprise. It's played a couple times throughout the score of the movie. And it just gets those emotions working, because when Snape dies, even in the book I felt something, because I was like, there's something not right here. You know, we don't know his true allegiance yet, and yes, he killed Dumbledore, so you're like, alright, I don't really like this guy, but you knew there was something up there. And just the way he dies, in the book, it was so sad. Look into my eyes. And you kind of had to read that a couple times to be like, well, you know, why is he saying that? And at first, my first thought was like, Legilimens, because, you know, he could read minds, I don't know. But then I was like, no, wait, Harry's eyes. He has Lily's eyes. And in the book, in the book he just says, you know, look into my eyes, and then he dies. But in the movie, they say, you have your mother's eyes. And there was so many nuances throughout this this movie. And even in that performance, there was just these little, even facial gestures that just get you all tear-jerky, and it was so awesome. And then we jump into The Prince's Tale, and was that ever done so amazingly? That was easily, like, my favorite part of the movie, because it was adapted so well. I've always loved the way they've done pensive scenes, and this was no different. Oh my god, they take little liberties, and for every liberty for all the liberties they take, there's just as many payoffs. Almost every single one of the new things they add or the changes they make works for them in some way or another with throughout the entire continuity of the film. And one of them they do take some liberties with is The Prince's Tale, because obviously it is very long. You kind of have to condense some things, but you don't want to ruin that emotional power that's behind it that really drives the rest of the movie, and just this kind of emotional freight train to the end. And oh my god, just, they had this part where Snape visits Godric's Hollow, and that was it was more referred to in the book than, like, you really get to see what he does, because, you know, movies get to show things when books can only refer to them, and you get to see him go up into, you know, the top of the Potter house and clutch Lily's dead body, and, like, his just moaning and cries of pain, and it's just so intense. And the visuals and the score during that scene, it just makes this beautiful thing, the likes of which you rarely see in movies. That's something that just works so much. I mean, you kind of have to have a lot of knowledge of Potter lore to get in, to really appreciate the power of that sequence. But I think even if you're just in on the films, you might be a little left out, because there is obviously more in the books than there are in the movies. But if you read the books, I think you should truly appreciate the scope of that scene. And that leads to one of the coolest twists, I think, in the entire series, is Harry's a Horcrux. So you get these two things at once. Snape's a good guy, Harry's a Horcrux. And so then from there on, you know, we move out. And by the way, the kids who play, you know, the young Lily and young Snape were very good for the little time they were in there. And they actually look quite like them. One thing that is left out is a lot of the backstory on Dumbledore, a lot of this mistrust and animosity Harry was feeling towards him. And that's kind of, you know, in conclusion with Aberforth. You know, I'm glad they kept the mirror thing and everything. But yeah, I know that's one thing that they were receiving a little bit of complaints about. But I think it's okay, you know. I wish it was in there, but I don't think it affects the movie too much. I think it's vital to the book, but not in entirety vital to the movie, and they did enough of it. They at least have Ariana's portrait in there. I'm kind of backtracking here, but then, you know, then we meet up with Neville, and Mathew Lewis just takes this to ultimate badassery. You know, they go into the room of requirement, everybody's there, everybody's happy to hear Harry. I think everybody was, like, even at that point, like, you're kind of feeling down a little bit, and your hopes are raised when you enter the room of requirement, see all these people supporting and fighting for him. And then, you know, we kind of, then they do that little change. Instead of having Harry go right up to Gryffindor, or Ravenclaw Tower with Luna, they instead have, they call this meeting in the Great Hall, and he kind of calls Snape out, and then the Order comes, and I really like that. I thought that was cool, because it builds momentum slightly more. It's kind of a great overtaking back of the school, and, you know, I love, like, just Daniel Radcliffe and Alan Rickman, like, those performances, just Oscar-worthy, so very much. And then Maggie Smith as McGonagall just comes in, and I was waiting. She was one of my favorite parts of this movie for good reason, because I loved her in that book. She was awesome. She just comes in and snuffs Snape. Even, yeah, he's a good guy, but still, I grew pleasure from seeing that. And then boom, Caro's. Yeah, and then all the Orders there, and I thought that was really cool. And then they do the part where Voldemort invades the school. Well, his voice, you know, he kind of makes the announcement. I really like the way they did that. It was weird, you know, the first time I was like, what the hell is going on? But that was awesome. I really dug the way they did it. Everything blackens. And yes, all of this is just this increasing tone, this increasing fear almost when what's gonna happen, this huge climax that's approaching, and you know it's coming. We have Kelly MacDonald, who is now on Boardwalk Empire, great show, but yeah, she is so amazing as the Grey Lady. Like, I really wasn't expecting her to have that much emotion, like them to really give her a lot of time, but the time that they did give her was very good. They do cut out they cut out the story on how she got the diadem, but they just cut straight to it, and then they go to the room requirement, and then there's that whole battle, and I really like the way they did that. You know, it's kind of the killing off of some more innocence, almost having, well, Crab or Goyle, because in the book it's different, but yeah, because they're always just kind of a source of comedy in the books, because, you know, they're like the cliche school bullies, so it's always just kind of like, oh, you know, Crab and Goyle, and then one of them dies, and it's like, it was just, I don't know, it was just shocking.